Swee, Chiow, welcome to Weird Sauce. Thank you for welcoming us here in Singapore. Could you kindly introduce yourself for the audience?
I'm Khoo. I'm an adventurer and a motivational speaker and a rock climbing instructor and author. So I take people to climb all over the world, from China to Nepal to Kilimanjaro. And in Singapore, I teach rock climbing classes, and there are various levels from beginners to advanced levels.
And how did you start climbing, considering that we live in a very tropical island? For those who are listening who don't know Singapore is hot, is very humid, is very tropical.
Very hot.
So how did you go from I'd rather swim or walk around to no, I want to climb?
Well, I started long ago with going to Nepal just for a simple trek, and at the time I was not a technical climber at all. So I wanted to see the Himalaya, of course, and so I went, I saw Mount Everest with my own eyes, and that was the spark that started it off. So I came back and feeling very motivated and very scared as well, because I didn't know how to do it. So I pursued that interest, that dream for a long, long time, and finally I did it in 1998. And never looked back since. And before that, I was in IT. That's my first job, a real job. My last job was with Singapore Airlines in the IT department. So after Everest, then I went to the South Pole, and I thought a bit more about making this a real job. And then I switched, basically, in year 2000. I left my IT job and tried to make this a full-time job. Never looked back since.
Never looked back since. So share with us what it means to see something so challenging as something like Everest, climbing Everest, and thinking that one will be able to do that, even though you said yourself you didn't have the skill set at the time. So share with us the journey from having this call to go and do it, and being ready, or thinking that you're ready to try at least.
Right. So I had a 9-to-5 job at that time. Yeah. So juggling between a 9-to-5 job and training is very hard. And to add on top of that, there were a lot of doubts or self-doubts, because not being ready, not having the technical skills. So I started reading a lot, mountaineering literature, read about Edmund Hillary, Sherpa Tenzing Norgay, Rhino Messner, those, elite climbers, and started to learn more about how they get themselves ready. So one of the biggest, milestone for me was a trip to Mount Cook, New Zealand, to take up so-called technical mountaineering course. It was a 10 days course, and I came back actually not feeling motivated, because I was not ready for such a difficult course. And so I put it aside for a while. Then I went to a few mountains just trekking, but that dream didn't go away. So I came back to it, and I started training again. So it was a long journey, almost 10 years, from the day I saw Mount Everest to the day I stood on the summit. And it was 10 years of learning, falling down, failing, and learning again. But it was that dream that kept me alive. And also throughout that journey, I realized that, as I went through the journey, I realized that, hey, if I don't climb Everest at the end, I would have learned so much. May it be technical skills, may it be expedition skills, or even relating to people in the mountains, different cultures. I would have learned so much. So it was that mindset that kept me going, basically. And the dream of climbing Everest is, to me, like the icing on the cake. But nice enough, I did it, and everything fell into place. And of course, I didn't do it alone. I did it as part of the first Singapore Everest expedition. So there's a lot of teamwork, a lot of bonding, collaborations with Sherpas and so forth.
So what was it like for the first time to, not so much to get to the summit, because I think that's what everybody wants to know. Pretty much everybody can imagine what it's like to achieve the things you really wanted. But what I'm curious about is what was it like to be on that climb, that first climb, and knowing that it could have been really, really challenging, I'm sure it was, and that you had prepared so long for it. So what was it like in terms of the emotions, the sensation, and could you make the comparable differences with all the other climbs that you did after that? What was the first one? Was the first one very significant?
It was very significant. Firstly, the team, we trained together for almost 3 years. So during the 3 years, we climbed from small mountains to an 8,000 meter, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 to 8,000. So that prepared us quite well in terms of technical know-how, in terms of expedition skills, also the the trust and the bonding that we need to climb this mountain together. So that went pretty well. But however, having said that, once we set foot on Everest, it was such a big mountain. To me personally, it was I felt a bit overwhelmed when I started trekking and arriving at base camp. And even though I've read so much about Everest expedition, I felt overwhelmed. It's like, wow, am I really ready for this? Yeah. So then again, we take one day at a time. So at base camp, we climb to Camp 1, Camp 2, Camp 3 slowly, getting used to the ice fall, the weather. And we were hit by a very bad storm during that 1 month of preparations. And it was so bad that our tents, collapsed. We were stuck overnight without a tent. It was one of the very rare storms that hit the base camp. So they were up and down during that 1.5 months. What can I say? Nervous moments, self-doubt, even the team morale. At moments it was quite low. We're not certain whether we could make the summit. And in fact, our first attempt was a failure. Yeah, we went up to this place called the South Summit, very close to the summit, but we had to turn back because the team that was supposed to, prepare the rope for the last section didn't bring enough rope. So there was like a collaboration gone wrong, terribly wrong. So we came down, and then during that following 2 days, we had the media, knowing the whole thing, and of course, if you look at the newspaper, Mount Everest, Singapore Mount Everest team failed. So we were under a lot of pressure to succeed. And our president, Ong Teng Cheong at the time, was our patron. So the funny thing is, before we left, we had a farewell. And then he said to us very sternly, get it right the first time. And we did the exact opposite. Yeah. So yeah, we were under a lot of pressure. But the team came together, and within just 1 week, we launched a second attempt, and we made it to the top. Yeah, so 2 of us, me and Edwin, my partner. Again, I remember on that second attempt, it was no longer that joy, that excitement. It was a lot of pressure, under the whole Singapore was waiting for success, nothing but success. So to me, physically, I was tired as well, because if you climb Everest like almost twice in 1 week, it's very tiring. So the second time was just getting the job done. Let's put somebody on top, so we can report success and we can come home. So we got to the top, very emotional. Of course, I have tears and everything. So it was the end of a 10 years journey for me. Yeah, lots of learning. It was the journey that changed my life. very hard. And but when I give motivational talks, I always say to people, if you don't fall, if you don't fail, you will never learn. Yeah, and this is my experience. Yeah.
So when that was accomplished, what led you to think this is just the beginning? I want to do more of different challenge, not just climbing, but you talked about cold, going up to Antarctica. So what's the mindset there to say this is just the opening door?
You are spot on. So when I came back from Everest, it was as if I saw a new horizon. It was like, wow, this is really exciting. Because if I can climb Everest, gosh, I can do a lot more. And the world has so much to offer. I have not been to so many places. So that was that mindset. And then the question is already on my mind, can I do this full time? Yeah, but I wasn't sure yet. So I quickly launched the Antarctica expedition because I knew the media high, the wave will not last forever, right? So the team was at the time riding the media high, sponsors, motivational talks. So I knew this was the time. Yeah. So I quickly seized the opportunity, formed the team for Antarctica. We went training. Again, it was a very costly expedition, so we needed big sponsors. So we found sponsors and support, and quickly, in just 1 year later, we launched the first Singapore Antarctica expedition. So again, that journey, that expedition, kind of convinced me or confirmed my gut feel that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, or at least it felt at that time. And so my IT job kind of fading away at the background. Yeah. So we went, and so again it was successful. We arrived at South Pole right on the dot, 31st December 1999, the Y2K date. So we came back successful, and it was then that I knew I wanted to do this full time. Yeah.
And what was the difference between the challenges in terms of the physical and mental challenging in being climbing under very cold condition, very hardest condition, and I assume much more walking than climbing in Antarctica? So what's the difference there in terms of physical and mental state?
So skiing to South Pole and North Pole is entirely different from mountaineering. There's no mountain at all. So I needed to learn entirely new skill sets, and that's my challenge as well. Personally, I like to learn things. I'm very curious, so I take that as a personal challenge to learn new things. Even after today, 20 years later, I'm still learning. So we went to Greenland, right? We had a coach from UK to teach us firstly how to ski. Right, if we don't know how to ski and you want to go to South Pole, it's a big problem. 1,000 over kilometers. So we started from zero, learning how to ski, learning how to survive in the cold. All right, pitching a tent as quickly as you can in a storm, and learning the equipment, the apparel. So all that, we went to Greenland to learn, and then we went to New Zealand. Also, we engaged a coach to teach us the cold survival skill. So with these two big trips, that prepared us, and then we went. So Antarctica is very different from Mount Everest, right? The scenery itself is so drastically different. So for once, day one looks the same as day number 60, right? So it play on the mind. It's more of a mind game than the physical effort. Of course, you have to be very fit to pull the 70 kilogram sled, but it was a mind game. Yeah, so I knew that was coming, and as a leader, we kind of prepared that. So for example, every day we would set a goal. So maybe today we're gonna ski just 20 kilometers. So 20 kilometers is nothing compared to 1,000, but it is that breaking down the problem into small chunks that we can, solve. So at the end of each day, we celebrate a little bit. We finish our goal today, and tomorrow we start again. That's how we survive. Yeah. So I remember looking at that horizon that never ends. So I told myself, don't look at the horizon. It is so scary because every day you are looking at the same thing for 60 days, right? So the mental skill there is learning how to break down the problems into smaller chunks and learning to make yourself at home in whatever situation you are in. And I find that very important skill, life skills as well. And that I translate to later on many other expeditions. Yeah. So that's how we did it, basically, learning step by step and day by day. Yeah.
And was there any time where you realized that the teams that you were with, so different human beings for different expeditions, that the environment, the context, and the nature of the physical challenge would actually bring something different in people in every context?
Yes. Actually, the final team made out of 4 people, but during the training we had 6 people. So during that so-called final selections, right, 2 people didn't get selected. Yeah. So that's based on the team dynamics as well as the strength of each individual. Yeah. So the challenges are very different. So like I said, it's more of a mind, right? So we need somebody who can be very steady, who does not panic in a storm, for example. So that's how we came up with 4 people in the team, basically. Yeah. So, not so much of being a very good skier. Technical skills we can learn, basically. Not so difficult, I find. Yeah. But it is the steadiness, the calmness, and to be able to work as a team that is harder to teach or to learn. Yeah.
And during all the next adventures that you had, because it sounds like you had many after that, was there a time that you clearly remember that was a moment, a teachable moment for yourself of a situation that could have been deadly or irreversible, at which point that is still in your mind to this day? You realize, okay, so that's a teachable moment. That's a near miss theory, and I have to learn from that.
Quite a few, and so there was one mountain I climbed in Tibet. It's called Shisha Pengma, 8,000 meter. I went to climb it without oxygen and also without Sherpa support. Yeah, so I was younger then. So it was quite an epic climb. So it was just me and my friend on the summit push. We reached the summit very late, like 4 p.m., which is way past the safety zone. Normally you want to reach the summit like 6 a.m. or 9 a.m. so you can come back during the day. So we reached the summit like 4 or 3 p.m., which is, I shouldn't have done that. But we kept pushing on and, we could see the summit. It was the lure of the summit and of course the challenge of climbing my first 8,000 meter without oxygen. We reached the summit and then we realized, we better get going quickly, all right? So we came down and it was way past sunset in the dark. By midnight, we were still coming down. Yeah, and we were utterly exhausted. Without oxygen, you feel very exhausted, very weak. And we finished all our drinks, water, food, dehydrated, fatigue. So it was during that moment that I kind of had a hallucination. So I started talking I thought my friend was next to me. I started talking and then I realized there's nobody there. My friend was way down, in front of me. So I quickly snapped out of that hallucination and I realized that I could die anytime. The slope was very steep and there was no rope. We were climbing without rope. And I realized that I could die anytime if I just, slip. So it was that seriousness of situation that taught me, wow, I've gone past my comfort zone, way past. So then I kind of calm myself down, don't panic, and what can I do? Just take one step at a time, down climb slowly, and so that taught me, the ability to stay calm means being alive or death. Yeah, and that carry with me even up to today. Whenever I have a crisis or a storm that's coming, stay calm. That you can find a solution if you don't panic. But if you panic, you may die. Yeah.
So the other questions that I have when I listen to you and when I read other adventures report or watching documentaries is often I wonder, so do you owe your life to other people? So did some people save your life in one of these instances? And similarly, did you save someone's life? Because I think that would change someone's mindset.
So as a team leader these days, because I bring people, to climb and to chase their dreams, so to speak, I've had to evacuate several times people that are injured, having altitude sickness, for example, or some frostbite. So I've had to do that several times. So again, it comes with experience. There was another occasion where my life was saved by someone else. So let me tell this story. This was a kayaking expedition in Philippines. So me and my buddy, Buzzy, Filipino, so we were kayaking, and it was actually the last day of the expedition, day number 87. So we launched out in the morning, but it was a very windy day, and the minute we turned the corner, we hit the storm. So it was very rough sea, foam everywhere, and I capsized, and very soon my friend capsized as well, and we could not get back to the kayak because it was just too rough, and we got separated, and we were on our own basically. So I look at my GPS. Then I called my friend. We had a support team on land. So I said, well, I need help, and a few minutes later they called back and they said nobody's coming because it was a fishing village, but the storm is so bad that nobody would come and rescue me, right? So I thought, wow, this is terrible. I'm going to be on my own again. Yeah. So again, I look at my GPS. I thought I was drifting to the shore, but I was not. I was drifting into the open sea. And if you look at the map, I was drifting to Taiwan, hundreds of kilometers away. So totally hopeless, could not get back to my kayak. My kayak was totally submerged. Absolutely hopeless. There was nothing I could do. I was just kind of waiting what's going to happen next. A miracle happened. A fishing boat came, from the outside, from the open sea, and they saw me, and I could see in their eyes, it's like, what's this guy doing here in a storm? So of course they rescued me, and then we came back to the fishing village, and I heard the rest of the story, which is they were the only boat that went out that day. Yeah, so if I had not met them, I might not be here today. So I have been saved by fishing, fishermen. Yeah, so I owe my life to them. Yeah, and I truly believe there's somebody up there. Yeah.
So, just for me, again, another curiosity on the psychological and neurological part is you have a near-death experience like this, and perhaps other ones that in your many adventure you came close to. So there's the moment of the experience, and then there's coming down from it. So this getting back onto a normal flight, going back home, sitting there and thinking, this is borrowed time. And in this case, it's borrowed time due to fluke. So the question is, what happened in the psychologically to say, oh, I will still continue anyhow?
I think what's in me will not change. You know, your passion will not change, even though you had a near-death experience. And I think many adventurers are like that. Yeah. But what you learn is more important, to be safe or to be safer, right? And so you learn more skills to know how to rescue yourself, for example, or rescue other people. So this is what I teach in rock climbing these days. Yeah, so that's very important. But adventure is a risk, right? There's always a calculated risk component, and there's always an element of losing control. Yeah, so it is just a matter of minimizing that. Without that element, it won't be an adventure. And I think human beings, we are all curious. We always want to know what's around the corner, right? So even though I've had a few near-death experience, I'm living on borrowed time, like I said. But I think the way forward is for me to continue what I love to do, and to be safer if I can. Yeah, because there's a lot of enjoyment I derive from what I do. And I can see these days, being a teacher and a coach, I share that with a lot of people, and that is also a personal reward, right, to see other people grow. Yeah.
Is the psychological component and the physical component needed to do things on one's own versus doing things with a team? Have you found that there is a significant differences?
Very different. Yeah. If I'm climbing for myself, right, versus climbing, taking a team, is very different. So if I'm taking a team, I will make sure there are more safety nets, right? So for example, if I will take more Sherpas with me, or teach them more rescue skills, each of them, so they know how to at least rescue themselves. Yeah. So safety is number one. So what I mean is, my mindset is I'm bringing everyone out there. There will be a certain danger, but every one of them, is a father or a son or a mother or a daughter, right? So I want to make sure that they come home alive. Yeah, I don't want anything to happen to them. So that is at the top of my mind when I bring people out. And having done it for many years, I'm proud of myself, of what I've done, as in, I've managed to bring everyone home. Yeah, I've not lost anyone in the mountain, even though I've lost friends from other expeditions. And I count that an achievement, something that I'm very proud of. Yeah. So, but if I'm climbing for myself, it's very different. I would push my own limit. Yeah. I would take more risk. Yeah. But having said that, try to be safer. Yeah.
So what is it like to be back in your normal life, your regular life that is not the explorer life? Because
it's a huge gap. Yeah.
As a scientist, I'm really curious. Is the high of the dopamine and the serotonin release, when you prepare and when you're going and when you're doing it, and then there must be followed by a significant low.
Yes.
Which is embodied by commercial life in Singapore, life in the car, life in the elevator, life in aircon. So what is that like? Because you've done this many times.
I find it unnecessary. Maybe I'm getting older, right? I find it a nice balance to come home to Singapore, where everything works, everything is in order. I can sit in the aircon and enjoy myself a little bit. I find that balance very nice. Yeah, so that I'm not struggling all the time. My life is not in danger all the time. So I find home is like a base camp where everything is safe. I have my family, my 2 kids, my wife. Everything is okay at home, peaceful, and I find that very nice. So to recuperate and to rejuvenate and find your next dream. And then you go out again and do it. Yeah.
So is that easy to share with other people? Like you mentioned, your family. So what is it like for them every time you announce a new dream?
Well, my wife's a climber. She's having having me out there for so many years. She knows what to expect. Yeah. And she's a climber herself, so she understands the risk, yeah, or at least she does in her own terms. So what I'm saying is she does not worry too much, and that's very important for me, yeah. So that when I'm out there, I don't worry that she worries, yeah. My two kids, well, they hate climbing. They're both teenagers, so when they were younger, every holiday we are out, taking them trekking somewhere. So now they don't like climbing anymore. But it's okay, they're into their own sports, soccer and basketball. Again, to them, they kind of know, daddy is doing very serious stuff and there's a risk of, danger. But I think they also understand my risk assessment, that they know that I will not do things that is too high a risk, basically, yeah. And they always expect me to come home. Yeah.
That's a big pressure. In some condition, that must be a very big pressure. So let's return now to the 2 years that we've just gone through. And this world pandemic hits, and the number one modality for a lot of governments in trying to contain this pandemic is what was termed lockdown, or basically shelter in place, or whatever the term might be. So for someone like you, there are two aspects there. There's the aspects of borders are shut, and then within this shutting, there's also you also can't do anything because Singapore is not that versatile in terms of the geographical options. Yeah. We don't have a lot of options to go to. So what was it like for you, and how has it been since?
So there are two things for me. One is my trips, right, which is my commercial trips. So that became zero. Yeah, no income from that aspect at all. So then the question is how to survive financially, right, when you're being locked down. So luckily, a few years back, I took up instructorship. So I became a rock climbing coach, and instructor. So that has blossomed, that part of the business. So every weekend now I'm teaching, and even weekdays sometimes. And so again, so that brings home the dough. And also again, that is the human interaction, which I enjoy a lot, teaching and seeing someone grow from a beginner rock climber to advanced rock climbing. So that kept me busy. And also for my own so-called adventures. Well, in Singapore, there's no mountain to climb, yeah. But there's a lot of other things you can do. For example, you can cycle. So I took up cycling. I went back to cycling last year, raised some funds for a charity, did a few round islands. So that kept me busy. That's enough to keep me engaged. And then this year I did a 500-kilometer ride in 24 hours. So the preparation kept me busy for 3 months, the training. So I guess what I'm saying is you have to be adaptable. Yeah, so one door closed, another door will open. You just have to go with the flow. And that's what I've been doing. And I'm still very busy, on my job and busy having my own adventures in Singapore. Yeah. But having said that, I went to Nepal this year, too long away from the mountains. But that trip didn't go quite well because of COVID. There's so much uncertainty and people having COVID at base camp and all that. So the risk component was quite high. And then the airport shut down and, no international flight to come home, stranded there for a while. But I came back okay, and then just got quarantined and all that. Yeah. So now with the border opening, hopefully we can do trips again soon. If not, we will do other things, basically. Yeah.
And in interacting with people, whether you're training them or perhaps younger people when you're teaching rock climbing, what do you think are the big challenges for younger generations, especially urban generations like we are here, or we could be in many of the Western countries.
Right.
So what are knowing what you know of the physical body and the mental state that are required to achieve very significant things, what do you think urban life does to young minds and to future adults?
Well, I have 2 kids. They are on the mobile phone more than what I wish. Very hard to control, so to speak. So this is everywhere in the city, all over the world, right? The technology invasion, right? The screen time, and so that, to me, I see very clearly is taken away a lot of maybe creativity, and of course the time with nature, which human being, we need that for sure to restore our health, to restore our sense of a norm. But what can I do? This is a different time now, and I look at my kids. Maybe they will have to develop different kind of resilience next time. Maybe not climb a mountain, right? So I approach it with an open mind. I wish my kids are more resilient in terms of ruggedness, in terms of having more adventures. But time has changed, and maybe they will develop a different kind of resilience for this technology world that they are in. Yeah. So I don't have the answer, but I just wish they can even exercise more, for example, and go out more, play more outside. Yeah.
So that was going to be my next question. In your experience of both training for things and going through them, what do you think comes first? The fitness of the mind drives the fitness of the body, or the other way around?
Well, that's a $64 million question, right?
Correct.
I think, nature or nurture. It's a bit of both. In a concrete jungle like this, we have less opportunity to interact with nature, and therefore there's less chance to develop the mind and the body, right? So if you go to a country where there's a lot of greenery and mountains, people are so-called more relaxed, with Mother Nature, more composed maybe, but maybe not so technological advanced, but yet people are maybe happier. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the answer to your question.
So, but you know that people who come to you for expeditions in particular, they must be looking for something aside from the physical challenge. And since you're very involved with them, you talk with them, what in your experience has been the thing that they're looking for?
I think most people who I coach, at the back of their mind is this, can I do it? Curiosity. Yeah. And of course, along with that is the regimental lifestyle in Singapore makes them a bit, bored. Yeah, they are looking for challenges. Yeah, so a combination of that, and some people who come to me and say, I want to climb Mount Everest. So that's very clear. They have a goal. So I train them specifically. Some are just happy to just learn to tie a knot, for example, right? So it's a wide range, but like I said, it's always that the city life, they need more than that, right? And they're looking for that, and they come to me, so I take them to Nepal or I take them to somewhere, and it's during that journey that they discover something about themselves, and maybe they find a new goal or a new dream, not necessarily to climb Everest, but certain part of their life, they want to do something from that journey. And to me, that is rewarding for me. I help them to discover their dream. Yeah.
Have you had to dissuade people to do things?
As in, stop them from climbing mountain? Yes, there are some people who are, what I say, overly ambitious. Yeah, for example, just for fun. So someone who wants to climb Mount Everest, I would ask them, have you climbed Bukit Timah? Right, and they say no. So I will bring them back to earth and say, maybe next Sunday let's try Bukit Timah first. Yeah, so I would take them back to reality, but I would not stop them. I would say, let's climb Bukit Timah and see how you do. Yeah, a progressive kind of learning curve.
Right.
Yeah.
So, given where we are now, what do you think the next thing for you is, if you have that just as a number of one, which I doubt very much, it's just a number of one.
My list is very long, you know. Well, I hope by next year, spring, Nepal will be more stable. I still want to climb my own mountains. There are quite a few I want to do in Nepal. So, for example, Lhotse, the one I attempted this year, I didn't succeed. So I hope to go back next year to do it. And there are many other beautiful mountains in the world, in South America, very remote places where there's no crowd, that I would love to explore. Yeah. So for me, the list is too long, but it is not important for me to climb every mountain on that list. Yeah. To me, it is as long as your mind is engaged, as long as perhaps you're learning some new skills from that journey, that's good enough for me. And also to share with people, that's good enough for me. Yeah.
And how do you adapt your training regimen to different age, different injury, perhaps different climate where you're training? How does this take shape?
Well, mountain climbing to me has, because I've been doing it for so many years. So, for example, altitude, adaptation. So now I know I don't need such a long period to acclimatize. So basically, for example, I go to Nepal later on than most people, and I can acclimatize just as quickly, right? So the other sports like cycling, well, in Singapore you can continue to cycle. Yeah. So every sport is a bit different. Kayaking you can do in Singapore as well. Yeah.
So do you train apart from those things? Do you train specifically, like, for example, do you adapt your nutrition, which is a key part of health and well-being?
I belong to the school where I eat everything.
Right. So yeah. The answer is no.
No, yes. So I don't take supplement. I don't take vitamin pills. Yeah, I believe in just taking natural food and eat as much as different variety, and that's good enough to keep you going. Yeah.
And have you seen the fitness level of the general population change with years of massive urbanization, less and less perhaps physical activity, even in the daily life? So not necessarily gyms, but physical activity that we had to walk from, point A to point B. We had to carry stuff. We had to. So now, Singapore is extremely urban. We have convenience transport. Yep. We have, we basically, if we don't want to do anything physically, it's plausible that we couldn't do anything. So how do you think this, to some extent, drives the sense of physical, less optimal physical state? Yeah,
just pick up the phone and your dinner will be served.
Yes.
Yeah, very, very convenient. Yeah, I think, well, I don't have the real statistics to talk about, population fitness and so forth, but definitely, we are becoming unfit, I think. Yeah, with all the modern assistance and technology. But having said that, there's this group of super fit people, ultra marathoners. Some of them are my friends, people who also cycle long distance. So there's this group. Maybe they're a small group, but they are in Singapore. Yeah, super fit and also super motivated. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I hope they are also influencing people, around them to do more things. Yeah, but again, this is the global crisis, isn't it? Right, with more technology, more convenience, we are less likely to get up and do things. Yeah. So
there's two questions before we conclude this I would love to ask you. One, which is about conservation of our environment and sustainability. I know it's a big word and everybody is using it in a different way, but in order not to lose whatever is left and perhaps to reclaim some of it, is that something that you worry about since you're out in nature, and you've been out in nature for a long time, so you've probably seen longitudinal data on how it's evolved. So that's question number one. And then after that, I want to talk about living with and without fear. A risk-free life, does it exist? Right? So let's go with sustainability.
Philosophical.
Yes, let's go with sustainability first.
Yes, sadly, I've seen with my own eyes. A good example is Kilimanjaro. I go there every year, and I literally see the glacier shrinking, right? And it's very sad because scientists predict in, I don't know, less than 20 years, there'll be no snow on Kilimanjaro. That will be, very, very sad. Not just aesthetically, but also for people who live on that mountain, the slope of the mountain, right? There's no more water source, or agriculture will be gone, that kind of thing. So what do? I find that I'm very limited in this aspect because I'm not so connected with scientists and so forth. I wish I can, but what can I do is, what I do is during my trips, when I bring people to Kilimanjaro, so I tell them the stories, I tell them, I let them see for themselves, right? And I tell them this will not be here in 10 years' time. And hopefully with that, they can open their eyes and they can do something also on their own. Yeah. So another one would be a Carstensz Pyramid, the highest peak in Indonesia. Not many people know there's glacier in Indonesia, on the island of Papua. Yeah. And so now this is no longer considered a glacier, it's just a lump of snow. Yeah, very sad. Yeah, because it's on the equator. Yeah, so equatorial glacier is almost gone. And I see this. So I have some photos to collect and all that. So hopefully in years to come, I can share this with scientists or whoever is more concerned. Yeah, or even maybe politicians. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it is very sad, and I see them with my own eyes. Yeah. So another example would be North Pole. Yeah, I've been there myself, and so the route that we took in North Pole in 2000 and 2002, because of global warming, the ice is very thin now, so you cannot so-called repeat the route that we took anymore. Yeah, there's just so much water now. Yeah, so again, that is a concrete example of what used to be and what is coming. Yeah. So I share this in my talks. Hopefully I can touch somebody's lives and, or people's lives, they can do something. So, so I feel I'm limited in this aspect myself. I wish I can do more. I hope to do more. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So to conclude, I would like to go back to this concept of risk and fear and living life with what is an appropriate amount of risk. Because we've been in a pandemic, and for 2 years now, around the world, the message has been fear. And we must be fearful of everything, and we must be fearful of this virus, which is a real virus. But as a whole, we must eradicate risk to some extent. And so to someone like you, I'd like to hear whether A, that is even plausible, and B, it's a goal we should even have as a species.
It's impossible to eradicate risk for someone, for what I do. I think the answer is quite obvious. We can only minimize risk. Yeah. So let's take the other example, our vaccinations. Right, there's so much talk and discussions. Should I get vaccinated or not? Among friends also we talk about it. To me, reading from what the scientists and all say, we don't have enough data actually to prove that it actually works. All right. So to me, what do? Do I don't take it or do I take it? If I don't take it, I cannot go to the mall. Very inconvenient. I cannot do this. I cannot do that. So I have to take it to make my life convenient. But who knows what's going to happen 10 years down the line, this vaccine is going to do to my body. So I have to take the risk anyway. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there are many things in life that we just have to take certain calculated risks and go with the flow. Yeah. So I have some friends, minority, who insist that they're not going to take it at all. Yeah, because they fear that it can do something to their bodies, right? Then by not doing it, then you are so-called being left out, and you can't function normally, all right? So to me, I just take it, even though I don't know what it's going to do to my body. Hopefully the scientists can be 90% correct. So that is a good example of risk-taking. Yeah, every one of us who have taken this vaccine has taken some risk, actually. Yeah.
But I think the perception in a lot of the world right now is this aversion that we have to, we have health and safety in the UK. We have lots and lots of things where modern society seems to be pushing an agenda of humans have a risk-free life. They walk in the morning, they can do things that are very mitigated at all times, and we must not let the kids play outside because they might get hurt by something falling from the trees, whatever it might be. Do you think that it does something to the mind to live in constant apprehension of something, while perhaps the elephant in the room, which is life is risky. If you wake up and you breathe, it's a risk.
Yes.
You can stop.
You don't know what you're breathing in.
So to the young generation and the not so young listening to this, if somebody was petrified listening to you right now, not because of what you've done, but because of what is going on in their own life or what's happening to the world, what would you tell them about that fear?
Do not lose hope. Yeah, that's very important. If you lose hope, you panic, life becomes meaningless. Yeah. Do not lose hope. Whatever crisis we are in, I always believe the storm do not last forever. Yeah, and that's what I go by. Yeah. So you have to learn to adapt, learn to manage. Just from the example that I just gave, yeah, and move on with life basically, even though that's hard. But do not live in fear and do not lose hope. I think that's what I can say. Yeah.
Great. So to conclude this conversation, I would like you to share with the audience the weird sauce that you have for your own exceptional life, that you've shared some of it with us today.
Well, I thought about the weird sauce, but after all, maybe it's not so weird. Yeah. So to me, if I may put it, is what's my motivation, to live, to continue what I do, and it's very simple. I'm 57 now, right? There will come a time when I cannot do what I love to do, yeah, and perhaps the time will come very soon. I don't know. So I have limited time. Basically, that's my biggest motivation. Yeah, my weird sauce motivation to continue what I do. So I better climb what I want to climb now while I can. So I better interact or share my knowledge with people as much as I can while I still have the strength to do so. That's my weird sauce for continuing what I do. I don't know whether it makes sense or not. It's a very simple motivation.
I will leave the audience to see for themselves whether it makes sense for them. I'm sure it makes sense for you, and I understand what you mean. So thank you very much for the time.
Thank
you. We wish you all the best resilience and strength to continue for long, long years to come to do what you love, and to inspire other people perhaps to be less fearful and to try as well something in their own context that they wish to aim for.
Thank you for the opportunity to share.
If this conversation stopped you in your track, share it with your network. You never know whose life you might change for the better. Thank you for listening. Stay curious about our next guest, and stay curious about life.